What a day. Oh, I can't even believe that this day happened. Um, so, my husband, I talked to him early this morning. He says he's on his way to work. He's in the parking lot of Wegmans. And he proceeds to tell me that he hasn't heard our tenant, our Airbnb tenant, since like Monday or something. And he's worried about him. And he hasn't had anything on. There's been no electronics, no TV, no nothing. He's been really quiet. And I was like, okay, so you haven't heard from him in a couple of days? Like, did you knock on the door? No, not Jeff. And I'm like, well, put some wipes out there, at his door, that kind of stuff, and I'll let him know, if he's sick, to go ahead and, I'll we'll put that stuff out there so that he can pick that up, and if he did end up getting COVID. And my husband goes, well, I think he might be dead. And I'm like, what? So I call the police and to do a welfare check. And they get to the house, and they call me just to reiterate that it's okay for them to go in my house. Of course, we said that was fine. And they go up, and sure enough, he had died. That's right, he died in our house. And, I kind of got to know him pretty well. Like, we talked for at least 20 minutes a day, like when he'd come home from work. And he had kind of deteriorated, his health had deteriorated. We kind of thought that maybe he had COVID, but he told us that he had a COVID test like a week prior to that. And but once he told me that he had the COVID test, he really deteriorated. Like he really got sick, and I'm worried that his test was actually contaminated with the COVID. I know that they had 2,500 test kits that were contaminated at CDC, most likely on purpose. Herd immunity is kind of like one of those things where they just inoculate everybody and let those people die that are not going to survive from it. It's a very accepted technique of doing something with a novel virus or a novel bacteria. But there's, you know, there's, I don't know that you should be doing that with humans without telling them. But I don't know if that's actually what happened, but it appears to me that that's what happened. The police said that he had like 35 bottles of medications in his room, and anyway, it was really sad. And so that was my morning this morning, finding out that I had a person that had passed away in my home that was deceased. And so very strange. And then we get to our place today, and there was some communication errors. So my first session had nobody at the session. Second session came out really good, and I was really impressed by the people that came out and kind of shared tips and ideas and stuff with everybody. So that was good. And so yeah, that was my day. Oh, and then I found out that I'm gonna have to go back to St. Francis retreat, and everybody has to check out, and we got moved to a hotel. But the hotel is really close to the ocean. So now I'm like right on the coast, and I'm only about 15-20 minutes from the place that I need to be tomorrow. So that's very exciting, not an hour drive like I've been doing. So things are going well here. My husband's having to deal with all of that stuff back home. As far as our tenant goes, I guess the stuff is still in his room. They're trying to get a hold of family members to come and pick up his stuff. But I don't know, I'm not going to really go into how I feel about it. Like, I first started crying, and then I kind of went through an anger phase. Like, I went through where I was like annoyed, like if he knew that he was that sick, and I tried to get him to let me take his O2 sats because he was breathing so hard, and he wouldn't let me. Um, but I kind of feel like, if you know that you're that sick, why would you go to somebody else's house? And I don't know if he lived alone. I don't know what his situation was. But if I had known that he was that sick, I could have stayed. I could have been there. I could have helped him through that part of it. Um, and I feel like, I don't know, I guess I feel like I could have done something different had I known the whole truth. It's kind of like when you go and you tell somebody like a partial truth. And if I had known the whole truth, then I might have been able to do something more than what I did. So, um, even if he didn't want to survive, I could have at least been there to hold his hand or stay with him longer or have him come downstairs more or not be so isolated. So, anyway, um, but that's day. Are we on day 4? Yes, day 4. So that's end of day 4. And I think that I'm going to go into San Francisco for my day off. We get 1 day off in the 2 weeks that we're deployed. So I think I'm going to actually head into San Francisco for the day and plan a day in San Francisco. So if you guys have places in San Francisco that I should definitely do, because I only have 1 day there, put those in the comments below, and make sure you hit the subscribe button. So anyway.